Hello. Okay, we're here for a ZH League match. Today I'm taking on Variants Only. We're playing 2 games of 5+5 Crazy House. So good luck to Variants Only. Just looking forward to having some fun games today. Yeah, we'll try to commentate as we go. So D4 played. D4, D5. The more solid of the opening alternatives in Crazy House. E4 tends to be a bit more open, so sometimes D4, D5 is a little more closed. So he's having a bit of a think here. Alright, he's going for Bishop G5. Okay. So, what do we want to do with this? Okay, we'll go for H6, G5, I think. So yeah, I mean this is very popular now, Bishop G5. The idea is that this pin is just actually quite annoying for Black's development, and there's a lot of decent lines for White, where H6 G5 has also become one of the popular responses to this. And it looks a little bit wild, but I've found that there's been a lot of games that I've played myself where it's actually relatively stable, but you do have to be careful of H4 pushes. You do have to think about whether you're going to capture or play G4. I'm thinking more of playing G4. I think knight e5 is coming in. So we'll play G4. It just doesn't favor me to open up the H file and take the H pawn, so we need to keep it closed. Now if takes, and then he's got 2 attackers on d5, so that's the idea behind this. I'm just going to castle here. So I don't want to allow Bishop e5 to pin this knight. And so yeah, I mean White's probably a little more solid here, but there could be some ideas of a knight coming into h5 or e4. So I'm not thinking too far ahead here. We're just trying to keep things balanced. Okay, so this is hanging. If I play something like knight e4, so I think I've got to take this. I think I'll replace bishop on e6. Just got to keep defending this pawn. On a good day, I'd like to take this and play knight h5. But yeah, maybe he has the means to stop me from doing that. Okay, bishop at f4. So he's pointing at c7 here. So we should respect that and defend. Okay, h5, preventing me the opportunity to play knight h5 myself. Very solid. So now, yeah, it's not straightforward to come up with a plan to unlock my pieces here. I am quite jarred in. So what are we going to do? So knight takes. I feel like he's making some progress if I allow that, but I'm not sure what else I can do here. I'm a bit stuck. So okay, I think I've got to take this. Because otherwise white's able to make progress on this pawn. Now this knight could come to a number of places, or we could even consider leaving it. Yeah, I feel like it's actually better to leave it. I'm gonna sack the knight here. So white's going to have a material edge, but if I go backwards in like knight h7, you know, there's a knight that's going to be on d4, it's going to undermine e6, g4 is going to fall as well. So I think I've got to admit that white's positionally better here, and I've got to try to mix things up by sacrificing some material. Chess House TV 24, Cole Eels in the chat, welcome. Okay. So point being here with d4 played that knight at d4 isn't immediately available. There's still knight at c5, but you know, there's a threat here. Now even if takes, maybe I've got to be very direct with something like pawn at h3. I've got to make some holes very quickly. If queen takes d4 was an option, but my queen is probably going to get knocked around a bit, and I kind of miss an opportunity to try to get some initiative here. Alright, I'm going to put the knight on f3. So I'm down material here. I've got to play aggressively. Okay. So if takes pawn at g2 takes the rook, or we can play queen takes d4, but then pawn at g2. Yeah, I've got to give up that knight. I think just go straight in. I objectively think white is better here. I think this attack is quite defensible. So pawn at g2, gotta keep threatening things, but also knight at e7 is gonna hit me. I could be in some trouble here already. If knight at e7, king h7 is forced, or else knight at g6 would be mating me. So queen e4 not playable, of course, because queen takes e4 is check, and then queen at g2 is mate. Pawn at g6, and I can play king h8. So it's sharp here. Now, what's an extra pawn worth? I think I'm gonna take this pawn because I actually need extra pawns to attack with, and I think that could be just critical trading off these because I'm not giving up mate with knight at f7. Okay, so he's allowing pawn at g2. Maybe he's got enough on me. So let's look at this. Yeah, the calculations matter here. So I've got to go for this. I might have to put a pawn on h7 though. Let's have a look at this. Rook at h7 is very dangerous. So I'll put the pawn on first. I'm down by a dangerous amount of volume of material here. Alright, so knight at g6. If I can survive knight at g6, I've got a chance. Let's see how this goes. Hey Bill, I'm just streaming at the moment. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, knight at f1. Wonder if that's a critical move here. Okay, rook at. So what if I take this? Rook takes. Rook at h1 takes. King takes would lose, so he's got to take with the queen. Knight at g4 check. This is one of those critical moments where rook takes could be losing, but king takes could be winning. The king takes, knight at f1 takes, knight check, king here. Got two rooks in hand. I don't see mate. Alright, I gotta trust my gut here and that. Oh dear, maybe knight at h5 is still winning here. He's got a lot of pawns. So can I run from this? Because he's got these bishops here. So if I ever put a king on e7, pawn at d6 is gonna hurt. I think he might have enough pawns to win here. It's close. Okay, I can't let him play pawn at g7. I think I've got to start with king g8. I'm expecting pawn at h7 next. But I might have enough to run. So pawn here takes, knight at h4, king here, bishop at g6, king e7, pawn at d6, king d7. How does he continue? Bishop at e4, okay. So we'll block on at f5 or g6. We'll block on g6. I think he wants this bishop here because it supports pawn at c6 later. So I want to force this bishop to capture. If I put a pawn on f5, he can put a pawn on g6, and then when I take it, he can sack a pawn here, put a knight here, and the bishop remains on e4. At least this way, when the knight's on h4, and I run the king to d7, only the queen is attacking c6. So if pawn at c6, you'd have to sack the queen, and then I just don't feel he'll have enough. Or is the move king e8? King here, pawn at d6 here, check, takes, pawn check, king here. If the king gets a b6, he runs out of checks, so we go to e7. He's got knight d5 check though. We've actually got to be careful here. You can win or lose games in these situations. It may actually be king e8, which is more accurate. Even though you get knight g7 check, then king d7. Because I can't allow knight d5, that allows another attack on f6. So I'm going to go to e8. Now he's got heaps of defense on the king, so a problem for me is that I won't have a huge attack. I figure he's just going to take the bishop and say he's got enough. I've been looking too much on how to survive with my king. I don't know if I've got enough to win. Knight at f1 could be dangerous though. We shouldn't give up on that idea. So let's... Now if I use the rook, takes, knight at g4, knight f2, check. This is very tough. Alright, I'm gonna go with the rook at h1. I don't see it yet, but... Oh, he's gone with the king. Okay, that was unexpected. I guess he figures he's got enough cover this way. I may have to stop the checks and play some... Oh, that doesn't look right. Knight at f1 or... No, rook at h1. No, this doesn't look right for him. Surely there's mate here. Queen at or... Yeah, queen at. I think he messed up this defense. He has to put a rook here. I can take, or I can just go this way and win the rook with check. That should be good enough. But I got to find the continuation now. Not as straightforward as I was hoping. f5, so king here, knight at f6. If takes, yeah. Where's the mate? Gosh, this is tense. Why am I not finding mate? Oh dear, he's getting away, is he? Alright, maybe I can just capture here, and then I'm safe for a moment. Or maybe not, he's got rook at e7. Oh my goodness. Have I blown it? I'm in trouble here. I think I've blown this. Yep, I'm mated. That's a real shame. I'm sure I've missed mate there somewhere. That's a real shame. But nice game from VariantsOnly. I must have missed an obvious mate there, I'm sure. Okay, I predetermined I was going to play a4 with white because I know VariantsOnly, the team is the rover team, and we've got to play the rover against the rover team. So Yeah, nice game. That was a good one, but I don't think I had the middle game to deserve to attack his king that way. But it is disappointing not to come away with more than that. Um, but great defending at the end there. I think I shouldn't have given up the checks somewhere. Okay, so I'm completely out of book after a4. So this is going to be a fun, interesting game. I'm hopeful to win a match because I haven't won a ZH League match just yet. I lost 2-0 against GSVC, and I'm staring down the possibility of another 2-0 loss. So let's play this one aggressively. I imagine that my opponent is quite well equipped to know what to do against this, given he's probably played a4 himself a few times. So let's just explain. I mean, e5, d5. I mean, black would like to play against this knight here. So rook at a1, nice move. Because I'd like to put a bishop on g7, but it's preventing me from doing that with ease. Okay, so king d1. Trying to maintain this bishop in hand here. d5 takes away the c4 square for the knight, but the knight can come into b5. Okay, so legion, so knight d6, check, bishop at d8, rook takes d8, knight takes d8, bishop at g7, checking. I'll have to look at that game later. Okay, well, queen e3 looks like it makes sense. There is HG as well. Bishop at b5 could be an option. What to do here? See, this f2 square is going to be a problem in future. We've got to be mindful of that. I think we'll just play HG here. Okay. Alright, we'll pin this knight. I feel like I'm giving up some ground by moving the queen. But at least I don't have the burden of having to defend this h6 pawn anymore by having a bishop in hand. Okay, targeting f2, no surprises there. Pawn at d2 could be dangerous. So I'm going to play knight f3 just to cover pawn at d2. Okay, bishop g4. So still angling at pawn at d2. So can we do anything critical with something like pawn at a6? I think it's too slow. Um, well, maybe it's not actually, because I'm calculating takes, pawn at d2, check, knight at d7, then queen e5. He'd have no blocker and has to play queen e7. And I can take that, and then something like knight at f5, queen at e7. So he could play bishop takes e2 first to get another blocker in hand. But even then, I feel I should have something here. Yeah, we got two very sharp games. The last game was a bit too sharp for me. I didn't clutch when I needed to. Okay, but we gotta stay focused in the moment. This would not be as big of a problem if I hadn't got a pawn on g7 already. It just really boxes this king in the center. So he's having a pretty deep think here. He may want to take here and get an extra pawn, but I may have the option of playing king takes e2. I'd prefer to play bishop takes e2 if I can, but yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things black's got to consider, because even if I take here, there's going to be a check on a8. So I honestly haven't seen everything. Okay, he's going to give up this rook with check. Very interesting. So if I check here, king e7. I check here, king e7 as well. So what do I want in hand? A knight or a rook? What helps me? I feel like the rook, because I have at least rook at e8, and then I get the knight with check. Alright, I really hope I win this game, because I should be better here. Rook at f8, king here, knight at c7 here, queen takes d5, trade the queen to check. Let's go for that. Rook at f8. Okay, do I take with the queen or the bishop? Probably the bishop is a bit more forceful. Or maybe the queen is more forceful. I'm not going to overthink it. So takes, I've got rook e8 actually. Yeah. So here rook f7 is on, bishop e4 is on. Bishop e4 and knight at e7 looks like the way. Bishop takes, knight at e7. Just cut the king off from g6. I'll pick up this bishop with check. And then rook f7 is mate. Good games. 1-0. 1-all, sorry. Yeah, let's have a look at that first game. I came good in the end on this one. I'm glad I saw pawn at a6. I don't know actually. Let's have a look what the engine says. So let's have a look at. Let's just have a look at this one first. So we've played a rover against the rover gang and come away with a win. So let's just see. From rook at a1, I feel black's better here. Let's just see if knight. I don't think knight takes d4. It's already calling -9. Bishop at b5 agreed with. Knight e4. All agree with. But bishop d7. So yeah, I liked bishop d7. I thought it was, black's just got a neater position because white's played some silly moves. But bishop g4 and yeah, I think black did have to cover up because when he committed to bishop takes f3, already I felt white was a bit better with all the potential, and the engine does agree. Gosh, calls a mate in 9. I didn't see mate in 9. So what? Rook at d7? Oh yeah, of course, because I can take here. So that's a miss. But rook at e8. Still mate in 10 or so. I probably even took longer than that, but we got there. Let's have a look at the first game. I've had 4 really interesting games so far in ZH League. It's quite fun, but yeah, honestly, this format is possibly the worst format for me, just in terms of the number of games, because I have a habit of being a slow starter, and I feel like I could lose the first 2 games before I'm even warm, and then I've already finished the match. So not to take anything away from my opponents, but I like a longer series. Something like the Crazy House World Championship format probably suits me better. But okay, let's get into this game. So white's slowly building a little advantage. And pawn at h3. So engine agrees with my aggressive play. That's all black's got really. And then here, I felt white was better here already, objectively. Oh, it thinks king h8 is survivable? But knight at g6 I just thought was mate. I guess you can take it and put the king back on g8 and run to f7, that's why, but never mind that. So we've defended, and then rook at g8, so VariantsOnly has played this strong move. Still very strong for white. Okay, now did I defend accurately? It thinks king f8, so maybe king f8 consumes another pawn. What I was thinking was if king e7, that knight d5 check was a problem for me. And that's because I'm conceding knight f5, or I have to concede, knight f6 check with pawn at e7, it all falls apart. But maybe there's some kind of trick where, oh, it's calling mate in 8 here. Yeah, it's calling mate. I didn't like king e7 because of knight d5 check. It's not easy to see pawn at c6, but yeah, basically the idea is you win the black queen with check with white, and then the game's over. Queen at c6, queen takes e6. If the king runs this way, there's a bishop here as well. Everything is too powerful. So that's why I decided king e8 in the game. And even then, white should be better here. So I tried to play for something. Now, if I just figured if pawn at g2, it simplified things where he'd get a queen on g2, and I'm never going to checkmate the king. So this is just a bluff, really. And yeah, he should just keep blocking on f1. As I don't have knight at d2 check to win the queen, it's covered. I didn't really see what I could do even a bishop at f1, maybe takes, pawn at g2, knight takes. Yeah, white king is going to be safer than black's the whole way. So, variance only deserves to win this. King h2 is just not a good move, and it's calling mate in 7, so I've missed something here. So bishop at f3, okay, that makes sense. In my head, I just thought if I could get a bishop here and a queen here, then when the king comes here I get knight at f3. But I kept putting the bishop on g2. The difference is if you put the bishop on f3, you can put your pawn on g2 first. And that makes all the difference, because then you end up with your bishop on g2 defending h3, stopping the king from running up. Maybe I didn't have as much time here, so that's why I've gone bishop at g2 directly. Difference being though, and you should still win here, it's still calling mate in 5. But, that pawn doesn't go backwards, so as the game went, yeah, I saw this, but I thought he could run out to f1, and I missed queen takes d3. That's also very clear cut. Yeah, I did not see queen takes d3 in the game. I would have played this. I was so much thinking queen takes g1. Anyway, what happened was much more interesting, and should still have mate. I just can't believe. I considered queen takes f4 in the game, but I just didn't have the time to calculate it all. Idea being, if you get a bishop for f3, you should be able to cover this critical square h5 and get a rook at h5 mate. But there's other possibilities like king takes f4. So, I mean, it's very easy for the machine to call mate in 5. But in a live game, I thought I saw other opportunities. So still calling mate in 4. How many mates have I missed here? So rook at h5, still mating. Knight e8, still mating. Rook h8, still mating. So knight d6. This is where I was considering knight d6. And because white has to place a blocker. And it's either a bishop or a rook. If they give you the rook on d8, you get rook at e8 mate. If they give you the bishop, then takes and bishop at g7 or bishop at e7. So yeah, that's a case of me actually ignoring my instinct about 4 times or more to find checkmate. And that's pretty disappointing to walk away from this one. So as the game went, yeah, now white's getting away. So it's actually calling it better for white already on king f7. So very nicely defended, and rook at e7. The way he did it is actually very accurate as well. You've got 3 rooks in hand. You've got lots of bishops. Black can't ever take d6 because he'll lose a queen in the process. And nice finish there. So interesting games. Yeah, shocker. It feels even worse now, like seeing how many mates I missed. But I just need to trust my instinct a little bit better. It's interesting. It's like I tried to calculate mate, and I did worse than if I would just play, a move without thinking. I guess that's that's the way my instinct is trained. It's better than me thinking. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed those games. I really enjoyed those games. Thanks to VariantsOnly for being a great opponent and for surviving, really doing a Houdini on this game with white. But, the middle game was his. He deserved to win this game from the middle game, I feel. I nearly felt like I was stealing it, and kind of felt bad doing it because he played the opening and the middle game so well as white. Okay. Yeah, well, what are we going to do now? I don't want to stream too long because I'm going to have... I've got relatives staying and sleeping over, and I don't want to create too much noise. But if somebody wants to join in, I can play a few more games. Legion is asking for bug. Lone Wolf wants in. Alright. First taker. Lone Wolf. There we go. We'll play a few games against Lone Wolf. So, the Lone Wolf still in the Crazy House World Championships. Now, yeah, I haven't heard further. I think Lone Wolf said that Zek was... that's his next opponent. Zek was saying he was going to withdraw, which is unfortunate. But let's see. Let's see what happens. So Lone Wolf may progress without having to play another match. I think the Lone Wolf is going to know this opening better than me. So let's see what happens. Highly theoretical, very widely studied, and I've been playing a few more book moves, but I can't claim that I know a heap of theory here. This is for guys like Katask and the finisher. Jasugi probably knows these lines just because Katask has beaten every bad line out of him by now, because I've seen them play plenty of this. So I'm more or less out of book here already. I know pawn at e6 happens, and I know up to knight at f5, but I honestly don't understand it entirely. I feel that knight at f5 plays a role in attacking and also defending h4. Knight takes d5. Okay, I'm not familiar with this move, but queen takes g7 feels right. So there must be some knight at e3 check and something that happens after that, but I feel like if I don't take g7 there, then I'm missing out. So maybe bishop takes. Okay, let's see. Let's play. Alright, I mean, I like bishop takes. I could be completely falling into a theoretical trap here and I'd have no idea. I'm just going to trust myself. I've got to attack this one. Knight at e3. Okay. So that's to take g5. So if I take with a bishop, this queen e5 check he's got to be careful about. I don't understand this. Maybe he's got queen e7. So, yeah, I feel like an extra knight in hand is actually going to be useful. So I'm going to allow the trade of the knights. Now, is there queen f8 even? So the queen f8 or queen e5? Queen e5, queen e7 is forced. Knight at g7, king here, takes. Knight. Got three knights. Knight here, knight here, knight here. Check. It's close to mate. It's not quite. So I don't think queen x8 works because pawn at g7 here, knight at h5, king comes here. That's safe. Could be some big capture on f7, knight at e5. Even then, I'm not convinced. So, what about my original idea? I'm losing a lot of time calculating this. Knight check, knight here, knight check, pawn here. Oh, you didn't have to add time. I should not be entitled to more time. All right. Okay, this one's an instinctive one. Going off what I just said, how I lost, I should trust my instinct, I suppose. So pawn at f5, knight here. Yeah, I have to play pawn at f5 to stop bishop hitting g4. But I feel like he's going to run. If I put the knight on f7, I can't contain him. So if he comes up, rook at e5 should be good enough. You can cut him at f3 though. Yeah, I've not really calculated this cleanly, so I'm at big risk of losing this game. I think he can survive this. It's probably surviving either way. Well, actually, king d6, rook d1 looks very strong. I think king takes e4 is a big tester, but like you'll be nervous taking that one. Maybe knight at g3 is my move. Because rook at e5, king f3, and I can't see how I can contain the king. I need the knight to be on e5 to contain the king. So I'm going to do the courtesy of responding with giving him 30 seconds, just like it did me. King takes e4. I feel like knight at g3. If king f3, then I got knight e5. Knight at g3 also covers f5. So the king's got to go back to d5. And we get rook d1 check. And I feel like that extra rook cutting off this file should be fruitful. So instinctively it's knight at g3. Okay. I'm running out of material here. So the moment I'm not giving check, I'm gonna be dead, so I've got to keep it up. There's knight c4. Hmm. Trying to make it work with my rook. Okay, I can't see progress. I'll actually take a draw here because I think that's a fair result. If the king comes up, like king c5, rook at d5 is dangerous. Probably what he's avoiding. But king b5 is probably asking me a more serious question. The knight can come to e4. I've missed that resource, so no, I think I'm okay with a draw. Don't know. Alright, then we're just gonna go to charger. Go on. Let's see what the bot thought about that. Oh, bot calls draw. 0-0. Interesting. Oh no, it calls mate in 7. What? Okay, maybe it was just warming up. So pawn at b5. Okay. So what's the idea here? Do I play a4 or knight a3? A4. Yeah, I wasn't close. I knew if the rook could get with check, that was dangerous. Ah, that's the move I missed. b4, because you have those two pawns for b5 and a5. Yeah, I didn't see that. So that's very nice. Hang on, let's not have white again. Mixer says it calls 0 because repetition. Fair enough. But yeah, I didn't see that idea. B4 is the move I missed. I thought I was running out of material because I went for rook d5 check. Okay, let's go for d6. Mixer chess is right. Always repeat once. I agree. Okay. So I normally see the bishop come to c4 or b5, but it's gone to d3. Okay, h6 looks sensible. e5 could be coming in. e5, knight h4. There's bishop d7 is also an option here. So is king h8. So I'm going to go king h8 actually. I'm going to choose my move order carefully. Because his bishop is set up to hit g6. And if I play h6 willingly, then e5, and then a knight gets kicked and knight h4, and I feel like white's getting what he wants. But here I get to bring the knight back to g8, which looks incredibly passive, but the idea is to get h6 in, have a fortress, and then start the attack rolling. So that's why holding this pawn back here is somewhat useful. I'll just take with c. If I take with the queen, that's an option, but knight e4 is coming with some tempo. So knight e5 looks just fine. And here's where you're happy to have a knight on g8 because it stops pawn at h6 from happening. So if you hate playing a passive position, this opening is just not for you. I'm okay with playing a passive position, but that's just my style of play. So here material's completely balanced, and yeah, I'm just sensing some potential here later. So yeah, he's making something on the light squares. There's gonna be some capture, queen h5. I'm not really too concerned about it yet, but I don't have a great move of my own. Pawn at e6 is also a possibility. So he's gone aggressive. I just don't think pawn at d4 is fast enough. Pawn at e6 looks like the move. So I feel I want to like attack the knight, maybe with a pawn at h6. I'm gonna keep this pawn here because it is covering this g6 square. But I wanna attack this before pawn at e6 comes in. And white can just go back and say, "Hey, you're passive," and that's fair enough. Okay, so g6 getting hit. So yeah, I wanna cover that one. Knight at f5 maybe knight at f5 first, because if pawn at g4 I can still put a knight here. So yeah, we'll play knight at f5. Okay, pawn at e6 played very quickly. Really looking to undermine the pawn chain here. If I take it, takes take knight at f7 check. It's really going for me. Okay, we'll take this way. No, I don't think I can afford to take that one. If takes, maybe I should recapture with the pawn, not the rook. Because I don't think a queen trade helps me at the moment. Yeah, if he takes first, then my bishop gets to defend f7, but then he'll try to trade queens and then get me on h7. So he's going this way. So we're going to take it with the pawn so that there's no queen trade. I'm looking at knight at f7 takes knight f6 to cover both e8 and g8 and h7. But then it's going to run into pawn at g5 anyway. So maybe I should just let this knight go. It might be better to put a bishop on h7 or... I think g6. I'm going to get hit with pawn at h5, but... It's so if rook at e8 I get to capture e8. And so we're still defending for the whole game here. But it's looking a bit better each move. So here I'm just going to counterattack. That's leaving a huge hole on g3. He just it's actually quite hard to defend there. Yeah, that was unexpected. F4. He kind of gave me everything at once. Okay, we're going to avoid some theory here. I'm feeling like I'm lacking. The Lone Wolf has really studied well, I think, this year. So, pardon me for the bump there. I think this will take him out of book. Okay, working castle or play d3. Maybe d3. So we're basically playing for this e5 pawn, and there's other tricks in this opening as well, where an early bishop g5 can be useful. Okay, so he's wanting to force the issue. I'm just gonna back off. Hey Belle, you alright? You going to sleep?
Still going?
Yeah. Alright, I'm gonna play bishop a4. So a6 b5 has relieved this knight of the pin, but this bishop does become useful on this diagonal. Now, castle or play bishop g5. But I've got to be mindful of a bishop f2 sack and a knight g4. We'll just castle first. So what black does need to be mindful of is, even despite this asymmetry here, a lot of the theoretical traps still apply with bishop g5, bishop g4, and knight d5, because while this is different, everything and set up here, the symmetry is all still there. So it's it can deceivingly look like a different opening, but in fact it is in some way transposed to a main line in terms of the opening trick. So we'll see if I'm right about that. So I'm playing knight d5 here on the premise that I can capture this one. So I guess a key difference actually is that this pawn is not defending this knight on c6. Normally the two pawns are here. And so it's possibly a little bit better for white than the normal line, which comes from the bishop c4, bishop c5. But I don't think the lone wolf would ever consider playing e4, e5, bishop c4, bishop c5 type lines against me. So it's in a way the move order is there's a bit of trickery to it. So here, can we get decisive with something like knight takes e5? That's the question. This knight is probably too good a defender, but it's tempting. So knight takes, knight takes f7, bishop takes, rook takes. Am I in danger? Knight at e2? No, that's okay. I guess he could just take it and then bishop f7, king h8 is fine. So probably wasting my time thinking about that. I think queen at g5 is more sensible. We'll just hit some pieces, throw a knight at h6, knight at f6. It's maybe not as exciting with fireworks, but very reasonable. Now you can consider taking here first, knight at f5. I'm actually gonna just follow instinct. I think it's worthwhile. Because if the king drops back and I capture this knight, there's two checks, e7 and h6 to defend. Even if the bishop comes on f6, you can play bishop at g5 at some stage, or bishop at e7. I think it's check first, bishop at e7. And I'm also threatening to take the rook, because there'll be a rook at g8 mating idea if bishop at g7 is played. So this is a double attack here. Can't take e7 because a pawn at g7 mate. If queen at g6, we'll take the bishop and win the queen. So we could do this with pawn at g5. We could, yeah, we'll do it with pawn at g5. Like, you can play pawn at g7 and win the queen, and that should still be good for white, but you do lose a lot of momentum with the attack doing it in that order. So the way I'm going about this is to try to encourage queen g6, bishop at f6, and then if something on g7 you can take here, or possibly play knight h4 and win the queen. You can also just take g7 and put a piece on f6 again. So yeah, I think queen takes g7 was decent enough to keep that initiative going. Legion says, maybe key difference, knight e7 possible. Normally you have a pawn on b7 to capture. Yeah, possibly. I'm not sure, but I mean, yeah, I don't feel the lone wolf was looking to go into that theoretical line with black. So even if there's a slight difference, I think white has an edge. And it's essentially like tricking your opponent with a move order. So bishop takes f7 has been played before against me many times. Pawn at h6 comes along. This I'm just going to castle against, perhaps, or should I play h6? No, we'll play h6 here, because if I castle, then queen d2 is playable and it stops h6. Normally prefer to take with a pawn, unless there's a good reason to take with a bishop. I wonder if bishop f7 is coming in now, and then something Wild on the light squares? No. So we'll take the opportunity to castle. And then maybe knight h4, knight at f4 is happening. So that's the problem with h6. I have made this weakness this time. And from the experience of the previous game, I feel like the lone wolf is going to go for it. So we'll play a bit more conservatively here. We're going to play against this bishop, play for our light squares before we castle. Yeah, here. Yeah, knight c6, knight at b5. Castles, knight at e7. He doesn't have a pawn in hand, so I can get away with castling here. Pawn at e7 is really ugly to have to deal with, but okay, he's now coming in on e5. So we'll take this first because I don't want e7 to be hit. Takes, takes. I'm winning a pawn, sort of, but bishop takes f7 is going to get my queen. So we'll strike back with knight at f4. So hitting these two. Okay, he's just ignoring g2. I could just recapture with the bishop as well. So I'm just gonna cash in a pawn here. I'm just gonna say I'm a pawn up, and that I think I can defend a pawn up. Then I'll try to grind a win. So can I just take this? Takes. Just might not be fast enough. I won't be greedy. I'll just settle for a pawn up and trying to consolidate on the dark squares. Okay. Knight g4 looks natural. There could be some big sack happening. Knight g4 takes, check takes, pawn g4. Yeah, alright. If he's gonna sack, he's gonna sack. So I'm seeing bishop takes h6 takes, pawn at g5 here, knight at f6 check takes, takes, queen takes, knight at g5, king h8 or g8. I just feel like white's going to run out of pieces if the attack continues that way. If knight at d5, knight c6 is natural. Just cover e7. So basically, yeah, I don't mind these sorts of positions where it feels like you're under attack, but I'm already up a piece. So I actually feel the pressure is on my opponent here to make the attack work, or else, then black is leading. So pawn at f6 could be interesting. Knight takes. Bishop takes h6 takes. Pawn at g5 here. Takes the knight. Takes. I still think I'm okay with the king on the 8th rank. Okay, so we'll play the said move. So now pawn at f6, I would actually maybe avoid that one because that's a bit too dangerous. Knight takes, bishop takes, takes, pawn at g5, and then there's two pieces on f6. That's a different kettle of fish. Alright, we'll take this. Um, now we've got 3 squares to choose from. I'm gonna go this way. If f takes, I get bishop at g3 check, so I get something. So knight at g5 check is the next one coming. I'm just gonna play bishop at c4. I gotta undermine the pieces that are in my half. I don't have an attack here, so I have to use the material advantage to work on it. So let's take this one. Now bishop at e7 is coming, but I get f6, so that's going to be a critical path to defense. So white king's safe. White doesn't have any problems with safety, but it's just a material advantage that's very slowly building. Just got to keep grinding here and be patient. Now I could take this. I should take this. I'll take with the bishop first. Alright, I actually want to counter here. So here, pawn at c3, or maybe bishop at, yeah. This isn't capturing this because there'll be a mate threat here. Now I've got 2 pieces hitting b2, so kind of getting some initiative now. We'll keep pushing. Oh, maybe bishop at e3. Alright, he's gone for some counter. So what's critical here? I don't mind giving up my queen. Knight at d2 is going to be mate a threat if he takes, and knight a3 is also dangerous. There's a knight on c3. The knights on e2 and c4 are very dangerous here, and I'm still very safe at home. The knight at d2 is the immediate threat. But here, knight at c3, what do I have? Can win the queen. Feels like knight at c3. Gonna go with feel. I have ignored instinct already and paid the price earlier tonight. So we're not going to think about this one, we'll just go off instinct. Yeah, that's a nice game, but I hope that one is instructive for the audience on how to defend and maintain a material advantage, and then just very gradually work back. But you do have to choose your timing, because sometimes you can launch your counter-attack too early and then it backfires. Okay, at some point I have to decide if I'm going to take c6 to win the pawn or not. But I think we'll just play d3, bishop g5 on this occasion. If he plays b5, it's going to transpose back, so maybe he'll go bishop g4 here. And bishop e6, but then knight d5 is playable, I believe. So knight takes d5 could be a move here. Knight d4 also playable. Knight b4 playable. I'm just going to use the bishop to cover that one. Otherwise, this bishop is not doing much useful. And then we can, put a bishop on h4. This is a new position to me, so I'm certainly out of book. Okay. So I want to attack as quick as we can. Bishop at e4, knight f6. Yeah, I think we'll start there. Because you can't play bishop at e6 because it'll be going. I like that. The lone wolf says maybe if I queen sack first. GSVC has had good success against me. He's, and Katask also says things like, "Oh well, if you sack your queen first against JannLee, you have a better chance." For those of you who aren't familiar with the channel, I often sacrifice my queen when it's not called for, and can often pull off a win somehow. So I have opponents now saying that they need to sack their queen first. That's what that's all about. Okay, I'm gonna go knight g5 here, I feel. Unless bishop takes, knight at f5 makes sense. Knight g5, bishop at h4 is what I gotta look out for. I think that's okay. Ooh, bishop takes f2. So if takes, bishop at e3 looks like the play. I'm actually just going to avoid this without even thinking. This is just an instinctive defensive move. I've got to get back to instinctive play. I get myself into time trouble too much these days, and instinct has served well for years, so why not trust it? So Simple Simpson says, how should white in general react to moves like knight f4? So yeah, that was probably in an early position. Yeah, knight f4 is something to look at, but that's part of the reason why bishop is on e4, and you defend g2 that way. So here, my plan was to take h7. But I think I want to draw this knight away. Because knight h7 takes here looks decent for black. This is defending nicely. So I like how he's played so far. I'm actually going to take this one. I want to make some light square weakness. Either take here or take here. He's just so well covered. Or even a pawn at g6 here may not be too bad either. Yeah, we'll go this way. I was considering here, but we'll go for h7 and f7. We need to make something happen quickly. There's nothing direct on this king yet. black would have to remove this bishop first and get pawn at h3 on. The pawn at h3 may even be something he's considering now, but I think bishop takes f7 will be dangerous. And I always have means to defend g2. Okay. Knight at g5 played. So let's grab pawn goes to either e6 or g6. Put on g6. Alright, I want to get rid of this knight. Queen at h8 also a big threat. But main reasoning is to get rid of this knight. And then play knight at f7. So pawn at h6 is expected. And then always preventing me from putting my knight on f7. So I'll put it there anyway. We got to make the threat. Because if he takes everything, bishop at g6 or bishop at h5, probably more accurate to put on h5. Yeah, we've got a big check here. Okay. We'll stick with this opening. Let's see if he changes. So we've had him put the bishop on d3 once, the bishop on c4 once, but common theme of hitting the light squares. Something happening here. I feel like he's thinking of taking this. No, e5. Okay. Knight g4. Is there some e6 that's nasty here? Yeah, gotta be careful. Maybe even the knight should go to h5, not g4. Knight g4 e6 is pretty annoying. Because takes knight g5. If takes castles. Yeah, d4, and then that's looking quite good for white. So I want to put the knight on h5. That way it's defended. f4 is covered up. We could play knight c6 or castles. I think we'll go with knight c6 first. Now on this occasion, I would have taken with a queen. Alright, he's coming for me. Now have I missed something here? Ooh, he can take this. I have missed something. Okay. King here, pawn f7 here, takes, knight at e6, takes, king here, takes. Knight takes d8. I have to go for that. Maybe I'm busted, maybe I'm not, but there's only one way forward. The question is if you take with a knight or take with a rook. I think I should take with a knight, because I am going to need my knight to cover these light squares to help defend the king. So that's probably quite critical here, because if you take with a rook, then bad things are going to happen on these squares. So again, looks horrible, but if you count the material, black's actually a piece up. So again, I'm feeling here that if I just defend, long term, I'm going to have a material advantage. And rather than feeling pressured here myself to try to defend or salvage a position, I actually feel the pressures on my opponent here to try to force checkmate. Um, and it's it's kind of like just an alternative way of playing to make your opponent think twice, and you have a bit of you have another dimension to your game if you can play this way. I feel. Um, so here, yeah, I'm not attacking this king anytime soon. So I'm feeling like rook g8. So I got to defend the bishop somehow, but to be able to try to generate some aggression here is good. Nice to get another defender on the king. So if bishop here again, I just can't take this because there's either queen at f8 or queen at d5. They're both strong moves. So this is coming with plenty of intent. I'd like to counterattack, but I just don't think I have anything that's fast enough. So if I can't come up with anything fast enough, I've got to come up with an efficient defense. Rook g8, queen at f5 is going to be annoying because then he actually is making progress. So time is ticking. Okay, maybe I can counterattack with bishop at b4. Alright, I'm gonna go bishop at a5. Ah, okay. The only thing was he had queen at d5 to just pull this off, so I'm not sure if I've got this right, to be honest. This is all instinctive here. Yeah, somehow I feel like I don't have enough here. Or maybe I should have kept a pawn. Hmm. I've got a big problem here where if I can't find checkmate, and I don't think I have it, to be honest. If I can't find checkmate, oh, he's going up. I didn't consider that. Okay, I think we go here. We've got to bring this knight into the picture. Got to be very resourceful here because we're short on material. I've got to even use this h5 pawn because this knight covers the g2 square. And then like if the king went back, you'd be able to grab this pawn on f2 and bishop at g2 would finish things. So if here, then here. Or it could be bishop at g5. I'm not sure. Okay, he's come here. Well, I'm gonna make use of this pawn as well. I've got to make use of everything I got. It feels like mate now, but could be wrong. Yeah, because I get f2, I get knight f4. Oh, we can go this way. Yeah, I think instead of king e3, king d1 is actually winning there. He had a way of shuffling his king to b1, and I think he was safe. So Lone Wolf said okay, he said okay. Yeah, I think Lone Wolf was trying to bait bishop at d2, but I don't think, yeah, he didn't see the knight d6, knight f4. Yeah, it's a brutal game sometimes. It's a very sharp edge, um, and at the high level, particularly with these longer time controls, you've got to be really decisive with some of those decisions. But he had a path to run his king to b1. I couldn't see how I could attack him. In fact, it may have been different for me if I had kept a pawn in hand and given away a bishop on e2 earlier in the game. But anyway, let's not think about that. It's kind of hard for me to explain it. Yeah, here I think I can take this. So we'll take this one first. So if takes, we can get this knight out of dodge and just keep hitting with tempo. So material's still even, but got some initiative with white. So knight h4 could be playable. Bishop takes f2, check takes take. It's got to watch out for knight at h3 in case it's something, but I think it's alright. It's actually quite interesting. Bishop takes f2, knight at h3, knight takes f2. Because it takes, and I'm not sure if the attack is fast enough here. And this rook would be looking at the king. So I'm going to have to go in the think tank if he plays bishop takes f2, because I could even be considering king h1. Alright, he's played it. Okay, can't say I'm entirely surprised. Instinctively, I'm actually just going to play king h1. So I'm a pawn down now, but the king remains safe, and I'm still hitting with tempo. That's just a practical decision. Bishop takes f2 is the kind of thing I'd like to do with black, and then say I'm a pawn up, and then try to make something happen. But bishop at e3, okay, he's just giving this one up. So this is attacking. It's also defending. Yeah, I'm okay with taking this. Ooh, do I have mate here? Yeah, he was talking about queen takes g2, and I don't know. I like bishop at e3 better than his queen takes g2 idea. I think this is just fine. Do I have something here? Not quite. I need another knight, I think. What do I want to do here? Okay, I'm gonna go for queen at e7. Am I? Hold on. Rook takes f1, takes knight at g3, takes rook at h2 here, knight at g4 is deadly, knight at f2. I can't play queen at e7, I'll get mated. Maybe I have to defend, bishop at h4. Oh, I'm gonna play knight at f7. Yeah, knight at f7. I can't let him play rook takes f1 or else I'm mated. That was close. Legion's just quoting long lines in the chat. I want to focus on the game just for now. Bishop takes f2, king f1, f2, queen at h6. What? But Legion, if f takes g6, there's still a black pawn on h7. So queen at h6 isn't check. I, Legion, can you just confirm that? You're saying f takes g6 in the line, and then queen at h6, and then rook at h7. There's a pawn on h7. Alright, he's giving me big smiley faces, so maybe that means he's missed something. Okay, gives queen at f8 mating. Takes. He has to block with a knight. Yeah, I think this is mate. So you can't block with the knight because queen takes g7, so it forces the captures. Then you got to block with the knight or the queen. So if the knight blocks, I take it, and then bishop at e6 to cut off f7, and then rook at e8 to cut off f8, and then knight at e7, and then we're in. So here this is just two rooks with the mate on f8. It's alright, Legion. That's why I didn't like it. If the pawn wasn't on h7, it'd be different. But unfortunately, there's a pawn on h7. Opera in disguise, welcome. And Kwame says, why not queen beside rook mate in one? There was an easier mate. Why not queen beside rook? Sorry, maybe I missed an easier mate, but we got there in the end. Oh yeah, the knight is not in hand yet, so I think they're saying you could have played knight at f7, but he had 4 knights in hand, so I actually took a knight on g8. Only then the knight is in hand. I think that's what lol 7241 chess is talking about. Could actually go for e6 there. Oh, what's he doing here? Bishop at d5. So he's trying to get me on f7. I'll cover that. We'll take up the challenge. Okay, he's not sacking on f7. Okay, yeah. What's important here? h6 takes. Probably pin this knight. It's actually quite an improvement to not have this bishop on c8 and being able to place it on a useful square straight away. Yeah, I've not seen this position. This is new to my eyes as well. Can I just take this? I think I'm winning a pawn somewhere here. Or I can take f3 first. And he might take here. Takes, takes. D did, takes, queen takes, takes. So we'll take this one first. If takes here, I can probably also even just recapture this and then just avoid getting attacked. Like if white takes here, he's expecting a recapture here to get in, do some damage, still have a safe king, but I can just ignore it. Okay, but this should be a pawn on e5. Okay. I'm not really gaining much from knight at g2, I feel, at the moment. Even if king f1, like the knight doesn't have anywhere good to go to, it's just a check. So here, if bishop takes, I'm going to recapture. The idea is when the queen takes here, knight at f5 will hit the queen, but then knight will also defend. So yeah, I'm not playing for a knockout blow here. I've picked up one or two pawns, and then we'll just grind. Yeah, maybe Ant Kwame is thinking you can drop on top of a piece. I'm not sure. Hang on, Lone Wolf is gone. He's disconnected. Let's give him some more time. Yeah, I don't know what happened to Lone Wolf, but we'll be patient. A gentleman's game. He's back. Good. Okay, we just take g7. So bishop at h6, king here, takes the rook. Not too much of a concern. Alright, so we'll play what we said we would play. Knight at f5. And knight's always nice on f5 to defend these sorts of squares. So black's still just a pawn up, but in my sort of position here that I'm quite familiar with. Just now he's offering me a piece here. But I think I'm just feeling like I'm going to decline it without much thought. What if I do take it? Okay, going against instinct here to consider this hard. Alright, we'll see if I pay the price for going against instinct. I couldn't resist some more material. Alright, I think I'm safe back here. Pawn h6, we'll just go to g8. So if knight f6, I've got to take back with a pawn, because I can't take this way, then he'll take the queen, and queen at g7 will be a mate threat. But again, the material advantage has increased, so it's now a piece and a pawn. So if I can hold out, then I'll be better in the long run. Now bishop takes f7 could be on the cards. I'm actually going to take with the king to prevent pawn at e6, because I'm basically saying I'm going to take it with the king. If I take with a rook, then pawn at e6 is playable. So this is a bold, aggressive, defensive move. Yeah, we can. I don't want to drop back. I'm going to lose some material. Let's play bishop at g5 check. I do have to be careful still here. Bishop at b6. Rook e1 check takes. If he takes my bishop, I'll recapture with the queen. So if bishop at e6, I'll have a way back. Okay, so dropping the queen now is not acceptable. Okay, we can take the queen, or we can take the pawn. We'll take the queen. And now we'll take the pawn. So that just removes any sort of big checkmate threat, hopefully. We're not out of the woods yet. That dangerous? No, I think I can take this way. Well, because white king's still very safe. So knight at a3, I need another knight to actually do some damage. I don't have any direct mate threats, so it's still on the defense here. So, but now rook at d1 might be mate. But do I need to use a queen? I think I've got to use a queen, because I want queen takes c2. Okay, and now knight at b4 probably doesn't make. Maybe knight at a1, check. But I'd go rook d2. Maybe rook d2 is better. Keep the options open. I think I see mate. I got knight at a3, knight at c3, pawn at b2 as a finish at the end. So king here, knight at c2, king here, I get the mate. Knight at c3, pawn at b2. That's a neat finish. I'm very happy with finding rook d2 and that nice combination at the end. Oh yeah, I should change the title. Sorry. Yongwang says, when are you playing variants only? That actually happened already. Sorry. I should actually say it's the Lone Wolf. The Lone Wolf vs. JannLee. Crazy House on leechess.org. Alright, this opening's worked out well enough so far. I did it this way, didn't I? Bishop takes f6. Okay, so this is where we got to that bishop takes f2 line. So I have a feeling he liked what he got, and maybe he wants to play it again. So I have an opportunity to also choose to change here. But I don't think there's any other move here. We'll go with it. He was talking about a queen takes g2 idea. And I don't know if he's thinking pawn at h3, but I just feel I can defend with queen g4 and cover here. So I'm not confident in his, because last game he played bishop takes h4 takes and bishop at e3, but he was talking about a queen takes g2 idea, and I'm not confident in it. So something like pawn at h3 could be a different proposition, but even then, like as black here, because I'm saying, well, I'm pawn up. What would I do? Okay, he's going for it. I would even consider something like queen g5 and just playing. So here, the idea of queen g4 is just that you control your both attack and defense. It stops pawns from landing on h3. So it should be good for white. So we can put a pawn on h6. Now here is where I'm deliberately choosing h6, because if I put a pawn on f6, he can place a bishop on h6 to defend g7, whereas here there's no option. Now bishop at f6 we can keep piling on. So bishop at f8 is an option. Okay. So at some stage, yeah, queen at g5 here. I'm still piling on. You can't take either way because of mate here. Can't take this because of, well, maybe you can, but I just feel there's going to be checks. Yeah, Lone Wolf says yes, okay, queen takes g2 just dumb, queen g4 controls too well. So bishop at g6 takes here, and then after takes, see I've removed the defender on h5, and then we get to sack all we want. There'll be a king on g7 and plenty of pieces in hand. If that did happen, but he's taken the bishop, so that hasn't happened. So now, I like knight at e7. So that way this queen is now effectively defended by a pin. You can't take this knight because of bishop at g7. And there must be some underlying threat as well. So if I take the rook, like I'm just trying to undermine g7 in any way I can. So knight takes g2 and my king's still safe because an enemy knight next to your king is always a friend. It's an impediment, and then your opponent has to move their knight away before they get a chance to check you again. So I'm not the slightest bit concerned about that. Now here, anything critical? Like bishop at g7, takes. Yeah, I'll just play bishop at g7. We'll trade off these two bishops. So at worst, if he gets away, I can always pinch off this knight. You can play knight at g4, but we might place a rook first. There's no bishop takes. Can make a queen. Can take the knight. So we'll be more aggressive. We'll make the queen here. I don't mind losing this queen here. I'm still very safe back at home. Could take this one. Bishop at c8. I'm looking for pawn at c7. That's my play. Okay. So can I mate with queen takes, take, check? Yeah, there should be mate there. So I should get pawn at c5. I should be able to remove this pawn with check, and I should have enough pawns. Oh, maybe I've got it wrong. If he went king a7, it wasn't as clear cut as I thought. Maybe I was a bit loose with the finish at the end there, actually. Because this king may not be safe in the end. There's like so much in hand that a rook at g1 it could actually be mating. So you do have to be a bit more cautious than I was. Okay. It's important. Just cut off the king from e3. Yeah, so he's even pointing out rook at c6 at the end. Is probably covering. Yeah, look, you can easily get complacent in this game, and that was a case where I got complacent. I was so safe, and he was so unsafe, and I'm so far ahead on material. There's no reason to go and sack it all and play that risk. So just settling even for queen takes e3, taking his knight and taking away all that attacking opportunity much earlier in the game was also quite reasonable. Okay, so this move order's changed now. There's something going on f7. So knight here. I can't just play c6 like I did before. In fact, that's quite uncomfortable. I'm gonna have to take this bishop on d5. Yeah. So knight at e6. I just didn't see that move. I didn't need to allow this. I could have pinned this knight to the queen much earlier. Alright, it's a bit annoying. We'll take that. Hmm. Bishop at d4, pawn at e3. Bishop at h5. Okay. So this bishop serves two purposes. Attacks f2, defends g7. I don't mind parting with this queen. The rook can come here, defend. I'd have two minor pieces for a pawn and a queen. That's a decent, fair trade in Crazy House. But he's castled. Okay. Didn't expect that. So if rook f2, pawn e3. Yeah, it looks too dangerous. Bishop takes f2 looks the better of the two options. Let's go with that. Okay, he's just taking it cold. Now what? I'm gonna just give up the queen here. He's got another knight in hand. If he blocks on f3, I get knight at g4, so he's not going to do that. Well, got to continue our attack somehow. So bishop at h4, perhaps. No, bishop at d4. Knight at f6 will then start looking this direction. I think he wants bishop at e6, but I'm going to let him have that one. Knight takes e7, checks fine as well. We'll just back off here. Knight takes f6, knight takes, and then queen at g8 is covered. So I don't get smothered mated with knight at f7. Because if it was only the rook, queen at g8, rook takes f8, knight at f7. So this is a critical piece for both defense and attack now. So is this. This is a critical attacker and a defender. So we're gonna stack on. This attacks this and this. It'll be nice to remove this one. So knight takes e4 could also be dangerous. We'll have to decide how we want to go about it. But knight takes e6, knight takes e6 puts white a long way back at attacking. You just got to see if it's worthwhile, you know, giving up your key defenders for a big attack. I think we'll go here. I've got either bishop at g4 or knight at g4. I'm going to play the checks. I've got this pawn, bishop, rook in hand. There should be some indecisive here with another rook available to capture. So I'll get that one on first. Is there a mate somewhere here? I think I'll just take this first. At the worst, I'll have something like rook g2 and knight takes e3 to win the queen, but pawn at h4, I don't really see it. King h3. I'm starting to like rook takes g2 and just say I'm going to win the queen and white's not going to have mate, because taking this bishop and kind of spoiling white's coordination on the attack is critical there. Alright, he's taken this one. So okay. I guess if I don't have mate, I could be in trouble myself. So this is a nice move. Rook takes. Could have two. Right, I think this is enough to win. If he blocks with a knight, I get a knight, and then bishop at f2, and then knight at d4. If he gives me the rook, then we cover it with rook at g2, rook f2 here, check, bishop here, here, bishop h6 mate. Yeah, so there'll be mate one way or another here. If he gives a knight or a rook. King of here is mate in one. He's given the rook, but we'll go here. So king here, rook here, king back, rook here, here, bishop here, here, bishop here. That's what I saw. Okay, I'm gonna call last game because yeah, I don't want to wake anyone up. So he's playing the wolf defense. This is the famous wolf playing the wolf defense. Okay. What do we want to do against the wolf? We'll go with a bishop e2. Modest play. So can I play e5 here? Probably don't want to. He can play e5. Alright, didn't happen. So e5, knight g4. Yeah, I feel like that's going to be familiar territory for him. I mean, I don't think it should be that bad. Okay, we'll go e5. We'll open it up. It's a bishop f4. There's some kind of f6 that gets played, isn't there? I'm here just like trying to avoid what my opponent knows if possible, but I'm probably taking a bit too much caution. It's probably warranted, the caution, though. If there's any player that has studied this line as black, it's gonna be the wolf. So we should respect that, shouldn't we? The pawn at h6 kind of doesn't go anywhere. I'm gonna just maintain a solid center. Alright, we'll be aggressive. Gotta go for the dark squares. I got h3 in as part of a move order, so it's interesting. Okay, what if can I avoid that somehow? Okay, we'll do it this way. I think, yeah, f6 is possible. Pawn at e7 also possible. Black's doing just fine here. This is a balanced position because I can't really make anything happen on here. If he plays something like pawn at e7, I have to admit that I got to back off. And then he could even play pawn at g7 and he's going to be safe for the game. So it'll be a slow grind back with something like pawn at e5. So I mean, I'm not complaining with the position as white, but I don't think there's anything decisive here. I'd happily play this as black as well. Okay, so I'm gonna play pawn at e5 just to maintain something in the center. Now bishop d3 looks like it makes sense. They've got to watch out for bishop takes h3. So even c3 here could be on the cards. There's going to be knight at e4. Alright, that's why I wanted to put the bishop here. Knight takes d4, also an option now because there's bishop takes e5. Yep, he spotted that. Good spot. You can pick up a few pawns. Okay, so let's go for it a bit. Knight at c6. I got to make something happen here. So if I take, I just lose my knight. That's not good. So we got to take the queen. Now if he takes f2, he's got to look out for things happening on f7. I got to look out for things happening on my king as well. It's risky. I think there's enough. Takes, queen at h8, takes, here, take, rook at h8, here. Bishop at g8 or e8. If g8, he runs here. I don't think I have enough. I have to go bishop at e8, king here, queen g4. At least I pick up this and then I'm safe. So knight at f2 could be interesting. Takes, rook takes f2. Queen here, rook here. Yeah, knight at f2 is pretty dangerous actually. But then I have pawn at f7 at the end of that. Maybe it's still in my favor. It's all very sharp. I've got to trust instinct here. So I got to play for this queen at h8 idea. I think that's my goal. Because maybe after the king's on f7, it's actually better to take g6. Queen takes d5, block off e6, then bishop at e8 is mate. But he's got king here. So here's what I'm saying. Knight at f2 takes. Rook takes. Pawn at f7 check. Rook takes f7. Queen at h8 check. King takes. Knight takes f7. King here. Rook at h8. King f7. Bishop takes g6. King here forced. So bishop at... what do I have in hand? I don't even know what I have in hand at that point. Bishop at h5, or knight at f4 and a queen h5. Yeah, there should be mate there. We'll see if he plays it. I don't want him to run out of time though. Okay, but here I can just take g7. That's game over. If he takes pawn at h6, queen g7, if he goes here, rook takes h7. Yeah, he's calling the same lines. Um, yeah, if king h8, rook h7 takes queen at h6, king g8, pawn at h7, king h8, pawn at g7 was the finish there. Um, yeah, closer games than the scoreline suggests. So the real nature says knight at d8 was mate in the knight at f2 line. Ah, because I have another knight in hand. Yeah, true. Much easier. I don't have to think about this bishop takes g6 nonsense. Uh, the real edges. Um, I assume the real edge is the original Swede. Very strong in Bughouse from early days back in, well, the 1900s, we can say. It was before the year 2000 when Bughouse was taken off on freechess.org with the original legends. There's a player on Lichess now named Old Has Been, previously known as Ganejas, Gnejas, or maybe I meant to say Ganeas. Apologies if I'm butchering the pronunciation. But very nice to see one of the original legends of Bughouse and Crazy House still coming online once in a while. He said Vabora stole my handle. Yeah, he did. So if you see Ganeas on Lichess, that's actually Kazım Gulamali, who is also one of the originals, very strong Bughouse player in all history and still today. Yeah, no, really cool to see all the old names back online, and still having a good go with the younger generation. Okay, I'm gonna close the stream there. So I hope you enjoyed the games tonight. I certainly enjoyed some time streaming. Was a great Friday night. It's just been a really long week at work. Yeah, we'll catch you next time. Um, Wherever you are, I hope you can stay safe. I know COVID is about. And we've uh, we've got to get through this somehow. So stay safe wherever you are, and hope you enjoy your weekend that's coming up. We'll see you again soon. All right, bye for now.